Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Almaty Toastmasters Club. I'd like to call our meeting to order. So, I hope you're all having a good week so far. As you know, this is a special meeting for Toastmasters, a meeting of members, and we're going to talk through a number of club business items as we go through the day. And hopefully it'll help all of you really understand more about the roles during the meeting, the responsibilities of officers, as well as other upcoming things. And so we're going to each, as you see your agenda, we're all going to take turns looking at a number of different items. And so we're excited about upcoming time, and we're excited that you're here to join us tonight. And so as we begin, we're going to be using PowerPoint a lot tonight. This will be a little bit different. The other thing that I just want to do is we'll pass around some materials that Toastmasters has to offer. These are some advanced speech projects and different things, so you can take a look at some of the different materials that are available. I would like all these back, so pass them around, make sure they get back up, and we'll pass them down both sides. But you can see that Toastmasters has lots of different materials put together to help us all with this process. One of the things that we do need to figure out before we start our meeting, and I'll talk about it as we get into Robert's Rules of Order a bit later, but in order to conduct any official club business, we need to have a quorum. So what, may you ask, is a quorum? Does anyone here know what a quorum is? A quorum. Q-U-O-R-U-M. So a quorum is the minimum number of people required in order to have a meeting. So if you look at our membership list, you'll notice there's about 21 people. So you have to have a majority of club members present to conduct club business. Majority. So I like all those who are club members here to raise your hand. Let's see how many we have here today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So looks like we have enough. So Yadikar's treasurer, can you make sure you take a roll of who is present here today?
Yeah,
make sure you get their names. So today I'll be standing a little bit off to the side here as we go through and look at the presentations, because if I stand there, you won't be able to see very much. Is the lectern in the way, or is it okay? Can people see past the lectern? Okay. Okay. So the vision of Toastmasters International is that we want to empower people to achieve their full potential and realize their dreams. And through our member clubs, people throughout the world can improve their communication and leadership skills and find the courage to change. And our mission is we want to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And if you look at those are also, the mission's also on your agenda for today. Toastmasters clubs around the world has 4 particular values: integrity, chestness, so respect, uważenie, service, служение, and excellence. Молодцы, молодец, I'm not sure. What's the right Russian word for excellence? Отлично. Замечательности. That's one of those words. But whenever we do things, we want to, also the desire is that if you're a member of Toastmasters, that wherever you are, not just in these meetings, but how you conduct business and your other spheres of life, you would try to follow and emulate these values so that you're representing Toastmasters wherever you go. And so as you think about a club stands on 4 pillars. The first one is experiential learning. Basically what that means is in Toastmasters, no one stands up here and says, this is how you give a speech. Although occasionally there may be training, but generally you learn by doing and also giving evaluation. Second, is that it's a self-paced program. So you can try and work through your speeches as quickly as possible, or you can slow it down and go a little bit more slowly. But you can pace it however quickly you want to go. Then there's peer feedback. You're not being evaluated by professional evaluators. Although, having been to a number of meetings, I would say some of our amateur evaluators are pretty close to being professionals. We have some very good evaluators in our club who did a thorough job in encouraging us what we're doing well and also pointing out things to be improved. And lastly, there's mentoring. And that's one of the areas you hear more about, but it's an area that we're wanting to focus on and develop more in our club, because upon these 4 pillars, our club will excel and grow. So we also want to talk about the Toastmasters brand. And what does that mean? In talking about brand positioning, as we look at this slide, this is kind of like an allegory of sorts, saying, I wasn't born a leader. They were all around me, though. In the community, at work, at school, leaders were everywhere. They were the heads of families, coaches of teams, business leaders, mentors, organizational decision makers. I admired these leaders. They influenced who I was and who I was becoming. Whatever they did professionally or how they became what they were, I aspired to walk in their footsteps. And so I committed myself to becoming one. Finally, it came to me. It wasn't just what leaders knew that enabled them to lead. They had a voice. They could tell their story. They could listen and answer. They didn't just accomplish, they communicated. So I didn't actually look at this till after I gave my speech last week. And as I was looking at this and preparing for this, this is from the Toastmasters organization, like, that sounds a little bit like what I shared last week. And so I realized I'm a product of Toastmasters just as much as any of you. I thought, these are my own thoughts, and little did I know someone had already put thoughts to paper. So I set out to find my voice, learn to process information on my toes. I needed to learn to listen, learn to give feedback, and accept it. I needed to organize, plan, deliver, follow up. I needed a place where all the ingredients were there and someone would guide me along the way. I found that place. I found a community of learners and the path to leadership. I am a leader, and I was made. And some of this is in Toastmasters believes that leaders are not born, although there are some born leaders, but that leaders can be made. You can work at it, you can receive feedback, you can grow in those skills. And so last week, as Aisha gave my evaluation to talk about Maslow's hierarchy. And so here's a diagram kind of talking about it. It's the Toastmasters hierarchy of needs as well. At the basic foundational level, people need to overcome for Toastmasters is overcoming the fear of public speaking. That's why people often come here. At the next level, when you have safety, and what that means in Toastmasters is to have a safe, supportive club atmosphere. It's a place to try things, to experiment with giving a speech, and it being a safe place. Social. You'll hear more about that, but we try to be not just meetings, but have social, be a welcoming place. Esteem, being recognized for giving a fantastic speech. And at the top, self-actualization. The realization that you can or will have already overcome your fears. And so this is how we look at things as you work through this hierarchy and moving forward. We'll talk more about this as well from different people, but I want to show this diagram to you. There's 2 tracks. There's the communication track as you work through the first 10 projects, which you'll hear more about. And as you do that, you can become an advanced communicator, silver and gold even, by accomplishing higher projects, and then also becoming a competent leader to become a distinguished Toastmaster. And that it takes several years usually to reach and become a distinguished Toastmaster. So it's not just working through your first 10 projects, but there's a lot of additional projects you'll hear about. So I want to talk about the second part of our agenda tonight is Robert's Rules of Order. It's not something we do in our regular meetings, but when we do business meetings, Toastmasters in their bylaws tries to follow a protocol which we follow for parliamentary procedure. And the reasons for this is that you want to run meetings in a way that is fair to everyone. We already talked about a quorum. In order to conduct business, you have to have a minimum number of people at a meeting. Usually that's half of your membership. If not, you can put that in your bylaws. And in a meeting, everyone should be heard. We should have equal rights and privileges. But there's a structure and an order to how that happens. So in other words, if you're in a business meeting, you shouldn't be discussing anything until someone makes a motion. Now it's weird, sounds a bit weird even in English when someone first says, I move, that we form a committee to organize more socials. So how you phrase it becomes a motion, it needs to be written down. Then you don't discuss it unless there's a second person who's also interested in discussing it. So if only one person wants to bring up an item at a business meeting, it can't happen. You need to at least have a second person who thinks it should be brought up. And they say, I second the motion, or I second that motion, or I second the motion that says such and such. So only after a motion has been made, or we say moved, and seconded, then can you discuss it. We're not going to go into all the other Robert's Rules of Order But in case there would be some issues at how things are taking place or happening, then there's some other rules like point of order, point of information, things that you bring up to keep order in a meeting. And generally, when we have most meetings, even as an executive team, we don't follow those procedures because we have a friendly environment. But what it's necessary for is if you're making decisions, recording them, that it's official documents. And you only discuss one item of business at a time, not multiple. So if someone wants to talk about something else, you have to vote what to do with what you're already talking about. Either say, yes, we'll do it, no, we won't, or say, let's postpone a decision to later. And then you have to vote on that. If you don't do that, you can't bring up another item. And then when you end discussion and you bring it to a vote, it happens through this. So when you have consideration of a motion, you can debate it, people on both sides. And before speaking in debate, members must obtain the floor. So in other words, you have to be recognized by who's chairing the meeting, in this case, the president. If you want to talk, you should raise your hand. And the first person who makes a motion has the right to talk about it first. And then if you're like I said, any discussion has to be what's on the motion that's on the floor. You can't talk about other things or switch topics. And this is an important thing, the last point. Debate can only be closed if no one else wants to talk further. But if people want to keep talking, someone can move the question, which means let's end discussion now. And that takes a 2/3 vote of the members present. You can't end debate on a majority vote. If people want to keep talking, they can. And then the last thing about Robert's Rules of Order is listen to the other side, focus on the issues, not personalities, avoid questioning people's motives, and lastly, be polite when we're having these conversations and discussions. And so when we come to the elections, which we'll talk about at the end of the meeting, that is a time that we will need to talk more about some of these things. Next, I'd like to invite Yadi Kar up to give her presentation on meeting roles and responsibilities.
Dear members, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to present you meeting roles and talk a little bit more about the roles we take during the meetings. Well, assigned meeting roles are usually taken by members, and they can be also taken by visitors at least 1 week ahead of the coming club meeting. That's what we do each time. By the end of the meeting, the Toastmaster usually asks to volunteer for one of the provided roles. But lately, as we've been running meetings every week, we have faced the situation that we are having people and the special speakers signed up for the upcoming next 2 weeks. That's why in the future we will try to sign up 2 weeks ahead. Now, shortly, I will explain you the responsibilities of each role taker. Toastmaster runs the show. So this is the most important role. Without the Toastmaster, our meeting can't be run, right? So the main responsibilities which should be taken by Toastmasters are as follows. Toastmaster compiles an agenda for the meeting by Monday, taking into account that our meetings on Wednesdays. And this is in case if Toastmaster is already experienced, which means he is taking this role for the second or third time. But if you are a new member and you're taking this role for the first time, our VP of Education will help you with compiling the agenda. Of course, Toastmaster announces the meeting officially open and close using this, yes, as usual. And Toastmaster does coaching only for ice-breaking speakers. That's the kind of new point we have decided that Toastmaster should take as a responsibility, because we've noticed that icebreakers usually a bit lost. So we decided that the Toastmaster should contact an icebreaker during the weekends, for example, and make sure that icebreakers are ready with their speeches even by Monday, before even this agenda is compiled. Toastmaster also introduces the speakers and role takers, coordinates role takers' activities, and does last-minute changes if necessary, which sometimes happens during the meeting, and makes sure the meeting runs smoothly. General evaluator. There is a role of general evaluator which hasn't been very often during our meetings, but since now we will make sure that we always have a general evaluator whose main responsibilities are to coordinate speech evaluators, introduce his own role and responsibilities during the meeting, introduce his team of evaluators, which consists of a timer, grammarian, and accounter, and provide overall effective and constructive feedback of how the meeting was run at the end of each meeting. Timekeeper helps us to keep on a time track. Before the meeting, timekeeper should make sure that he has his own stopwatch. So nowadays we use mobile phones for this. He should have colored papers, which we usually have in our kit, and a special timekeeper chart where it's easy to write the times. And of course, during the meeting, at the beginning, he introduces himself and his responsibilities. He tracks the time for each speaker who has come here to take the floor. And he signals with those colorful cards. If you remember, we have green card, which is the half of the time provided for a speaker, yellow card, which signals that you should be ready to stop soon, and red card, which signals that your time has ended up. And at the end of the meeting, he presents a brief report on effectiveness of using the time. So timekeeper is there to help us to manage our time. Grammarian watches our words. So the main responsibility before the meeting, grammarian should prepare the word of the day, introduce it at the meeting, and of course with the examples. So he introduces as well himself and his own responsibilities, tracks and notes down any misusages of a language, usually grammar things, and presents a brief report on the number of mistakes taken, made by speakers, and also the number of times the words of the day was used. And our counter watches our filler words, and the main responsibility is to have an our counter sheet, also which we provide before the meeting, and introduce himself and his responsibility, note down all the filler words and sounds made by presenters, and give a short report at the end of the meeting. Next. Well, speakers are featured players. The main responsibility of a speaker, of course, to be ready with his speech or project. And for a speaker, it's also important to contact a mentor if there is such. If there is no, you can always contact your future evaluator or a Toastmaster if you have any further questions. And a speaker also should prepare a self-introduction written in email, usually to a Toastmaster, so that it would be easy for a Toastmaster to present a speaker. Speech evaluators give immediate feedback after they have listened to the speakers. Before the meeting, they have, if you are an evaluator, you have to contact a speaker, and if it's a member, ask them which project you are doing and what kind of special requests do you have for me to note. For example, I can say, well, I'm really bad at time. Well, maybe you can, give me additional signals for time, or us and ums. Table Topic Master deals with part 3 of our meetings. The main responsibility is to prepare an interesting and concise topic, and prepare involving questions to the audience to make the audience interested to answer the question. Run the whole table topic session, and usually during the meeting, Table Topic Master also takes a responsibility to write down speakers' names on the board, which would be followed by voting later on. So here a kind of short poem created for you to remember the main responsibilities of each role taker. Toastmaster runs the show, general evaluator assesses all, time keeps us on track, grammarian and our counter watch our words, speakers are featured players, speech evaluators give immediate feedback, and table topic master involves everyone into speaking. Thank you. But I have one more presentation for you, which I'm going to tell you about briefly. This is competent leader tool. Toastmaster is like a bikini. It has the upper sides and lower sides. An upper side is another toolkit to highlight, yes, a competent speaker, which every member tries to fill up as soon as he becomes a member, because we know there are 10 projects, we have to do that. But don't forget about your second manual, which is called Competent Leader, and here you also have 10 projects to complete. Yes. Well, this is a general understanding. Leadership is a process of social influence in which one person can enlist the aid and support of others in the accomplishment of a common task. This is taken from Wikipedia. And now I'll talk a little bit more about our competent leader tool. It is, first of all, a manual. Each member has one. And in this manual, you can see that there are 10 projects, which I'll talk to you briefly about. And why do we need to complete it? It's not just because you are going to get a certificate if you complete it, but also you would practice taking really different roles. It happens sometimes that when you take just, timer or grammarian role and then you like it, and then you say, okay, next meeting I'll again be timer, and then next meeting, oh yeah, I'm good at timing now, I can be a timer again. So following this manual will help you to take different roles which we provide at the meeting. And for the club, it would help all of us to achieve distinguished club position. How to achieve competent leader? First of all, try to take different role every time. Secondly, don't forget to bring your competent leadership manual with you at each meeting. Try to find an evaluator before you take this role and give him this with a page, say, hey, I'm doing this role today, can you please complete it for me? And usually you have to do it with the official members, right? Let your evaluator know which project you are doing and make sure you get it back. Don't forget at other person's hands. Well, project number 1 here, you have to complete 3 of the 4 given options. For example, counter, speech evaluator, grammarian, or table topic speaker. So if you do 3 of this, which means you have to be present at 3 meetings and take roles in 3 meetings, then only you complete your first project number 1, which is called listening. Project number 2 is called critical thinking. So you can see that each project has its own name, which would aim you to help deal with these exact skills, right? For example, speech evaluator, grammarian, or general evaluator. So, but you have to complete all 3 of them. 3 is giving feedback. All other details are written here, okay? So just briefly. Project number 4 is called time management, planning and implementation, organization and delegation. 7, facilitation, motivation. So motivation is really interesting because it also says membership campaign or contest chair, which we have never run before, but I hope in the future we'll do these things. Mentoring, so becoming a mentor is also one of the parts of our club. We will talk about it later more. And team building. So you should be a complete Toastmaster and a general evaluator at a time with one more role. So this is briefly about competent leadership manual. Yeah, this is to show that you can't become a successful Toastmaster just by completing one of the manuals, competent speaker, but you have to try to complete the second manual as well, competent leadership, and then you can become a real Toastmaster. Thank you. Just one more thing for our members. As a secretary of the club, I have compiled all the previous agendas because most of us will forget which roles have been taken by us, and soon all those files will be open access on our website, so use it to complete your competent leadership manual. Thank you.
So, the person most responsible for handling the role assignment is our Vice President of Education, Begzad, who will explain how the process works and how you should do it.
Good evening one more time. How are you today, guys? You look a bit tired. Are you tired? No? Did you have dinner already? No?
Yes.
We will have soon, yes? Hopefully. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't choose interesting photos to adjust my presentation, but I think this is what I'm going to talk today is very important. And let's start. I'd like to talk about roles, protocol of signing for roles. Every meeting we should have different number of people who should run the meeting, right? So the first thing is we need speakers. If you don't have speakers, from my experience, the meetings are not so interesting. So we need at least 3 speakers. Not at least, normally we need 3 speakers, 3 prepared speakers. 2 of them might be icebreaker, but one should be, we try to have it, advanced speaker, like project number 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. And we need 3 evaluators, of course, to evaluate those speakers, and we tend to choose experienced members among our club because it's very important. General evaluator, people already mentioned, is very important, and for this position we usually choose very experienced member of the club. We need table topic master to run the second part, the most challenging part of the meeting. You know what kind of table topic sessions we usually have. We need account, grammarian, timer to get feedback in general in terms of time management, word usage, and grammar. And of course, we cannot run our meeting without Toastmaster. And any person, any official member can be Toastmaster, and I highly encourage you to take this role. For the first time, it's really challenging. I took this role 2 years ago for the first time. I spent 1 week, I put down every step. But you know, when you start, it usually doesn't work that way, you know. I couldn't follow, but it was very challenging. But after that, running the meeting is not a big deal. That's why I recommend you, if you haven't taken this role yet, please go ahead, because it's really, you know, it's even better than giving a speech, because you'll manage the whole process. So let's continue. And notifications and marks, this is very important, you know. In 2013, when Tom was absent, I was responsible for filling up the roles every week. We used to meet twice a month. And every time we have people taking roles. And today we have a meeting. In the morning they start sending message, you know. Sorry, I can't come. Sorry, I can't come. Something has happened. Sorry, and blah blah blah. You know, it was very often in 2013, but nowadays it's not a big problem. But still, people, give a very short notice. But what I like is some members, when they understand that they cannot come, they try to find another person themselves. And they call me and say, "Begzad, I cannot come, but I found another person, she's willing to take this role." You know? It makes the whole process very easy. Nowadays it's very often, I like it. So every participant who has a role should notify as early as possible the Toastmaster of the meeting if she cannot come or he cannot come. Another thing is, yes, if you cancel your speech, it's about people who are going to speak. You will have to wait for a local slot. For example, it happens often even nowadays. We wait the person, he calls or sends message, he says that I cannot come today due to many reasons, can you just shift me to the next meeting? Before we used to do like that, nowadays we don't do. If you cannot come, you will have to wait. For example, nowadays April is full. You know, if you cancel next week's your speech, you'll have to wait till May. it's like this, until there's a available space. It's important if you have role, you should come to the meeting early. So we start at 7:30. You should come at least 15 minutes earlier, and we should introduce and approach the Toastmaster. What happens nowadays? For example, I can tell Mason. Is Jadra here? For example, I don't know everybody. Yes, in person. So no. You should come, if you have a role, any role, it doesn't matter. You should come and say, hey, I'm a timer today, I've come, I'm here. And that's it, okay? Do you have anything else? That's it, actually. If you have any questions, you can come and ask me after the meeting. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Begzan. So now we have our dynamic Toastmaster. He does great introductions and gets us going. Welcome, Greg Heaver, to talk about speech introduction.
Thanks for the introduction, Tom. Okay, I want to speak about speech introductions today, as Tom said. And now speech introductions, there's two parts to it. The first part is actually being introduced, which is actually the role of the Toastmaster. Now, this is for my mind, this is very important for two reasons. The first reason is because it enables the Toastmaster to set the scene, to get everybody prepared and ready for what is about to be talked on, for what the next speaker is going to do on the stage, just so you know what to expect and so forth. So he's preparing the audience. Now, to help in this role, the Toastmaster will be speaking with the speaker in advance, just like Yadika mentioned, probably a few days in advance, maybe even on the weekend beforehand, getting some information from the speaker, so that therefore they can help to prepare the mini introduction in advance and to make it accurate. Now the second reason, and I think this is even more important, that being introduced is important, is this the next slide? No, probably not. No, it's not, okay. The next reason I think why it's even more important, particularly in our club, because we're a sort of a training club, is because it helps give the speaker confidence. Everybody knows that when they go to speak, even the experienced people, they're sitting there at the last minute, just sitting there quiet, getting their thoughts together, butterflies churning in their stomach and so forth. And what I, as Toastmaster, what I would like to do is try to give them some confidence. And how do you do that? By giving them a great introduction. Maybe it doesn't always work, because a lot of the time they may be not listening, they're too busy putting their last thoughts together in their head. But in any case, if they're listening, try and give them some confidence. And you can do that. You have the power to do that by your actions. Let me give you an example. Our next speaker today needs no introduction. Over the last 10 years, while travelling the world, I don't think we've seen someone, a humanitarian of this ilk, since the late Mother Teresa. May she rest in peace. Today, we are very fortunate that she could take time out of her schedule to visit our club and to give a talk. Without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming him to the stage? Now again, of course I went a little bit overboard there. I mean, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, I don't know. But what I tried to get across is that you can, the idea is, my idea is to give this person that last shot of confidence. It's like an adrenaline shot, you know? Imagine sitting there and hearing these great words, these positive words, and they're about you. So it's like, suddenly you think, wow, I can do this, you know, this speech is not so bad, I must be great. So, you know, you get up there and you start fantastic. So, you know, as a Toastmaster, because only the Toastmaster can do this, so I encourage all our members to, when they get the chance, to really prepare and practice the introductions as a little mini speech almost, and to really give the speaker a really good introduction. So they'll be thankful for that, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, introduction, the topic of introductions also applies to the introduction to your actual speech. So everyone knows there's three parts to the speech. The introduction is the first part, obviously. So, this applies to all speeches, maybe more icebreakers, but all of us here, except a few visitors, are past the icebreaker stage, but it still applies. And I put this together basically just from my attending the meetings over the last few years and what I've seen from some of the speeches. And there's no right and wrong, as Tom said, but this is just basically what my take on all this. So when you're beginning your speech, it's really helpful to start with some attention grabber, we call it. It's just something that really powerful message that hits the audience and makes them sit up straight and just grab their attention. Secondly, try and be unique. Like a lot of it's very. If you're like me, then when you're trying to formulate a speech, it's quite hard. You know, what am I going to speak about? And it takes a long time, and it's so easy just to copy someone else's format or something you've seen on YouTube or Facebook or whatever else, which is fine as well. But you know, just try and have a little bit of a unique aspect to it, and that will go a long way to being a great speech that you give. Thirdly, it sounds quite obvious, just speak, but you know, it's easy to say speak, but you just have to try and relax, and you know, it doesn't really matter how it comes out. Just at the end of the day, just speak, and eventually, you know, maybe it will be bad or good or whatever it began with, but it will always, whatever happens, if you keep at it, it will get better. So you just got to let the words come out. However they come out, it doesn't matter. And lastly was just have fun. That's the main thing. I mean, that's what, you know, we're here to improve and so forth, but if we can't have fun, then what are we doing here? We're amongst friends, so it should be easy. Okay, it's just that was all the do's. This is some of the don'ts. And again, it's not a fast rule. I mean, if you do this stuff, no one's going to criticise you because it's all part of the learning. But basically, this again applies to a lot of the icebreakers that we've seen. So you guys probably don't do this anyway, but I'll just go through it anyway. So you don't need to say what the speech project is. If the Toastmaster's done his job, he would have already said that. Don't give an introduction before your introduction. Just go straight into the speech. So don't say, you know, my name is this, or I'm I'm here today giving a speech or whatever. Don't say that my introduction is, just go straight into the introduction. If it's a proper introduction, everyone's going to know that it's the introduction, so you don't need to state it, if that makes sense. And another one which a lot of people come up here is the first thing they do is at the end or the start or in the middle, they thank people, and we should be thanking the speaker, so you shouldn't have to thank him. Okay, again, this is about icebreaker. Again, most of us in this room aren't applicable, but in any case, and Dr. Carr touched on this, the Toastmaster will act as the coach for the icebreaker. The speaker must provide his speech to the coach for review 2 days prior, and the speaker must also be willing to change and to listen to the advice given. So the idea is that we want a quality of speech at the meeting to be try to make it at a certain standard. I mean, we don't have to deliver great speeches by any means, but we want to try and at least have a sort of a base level, and we try and do that by coaching the icebreaker. And then when you get to when you become a member, then you get a mentor to fulfill that role, which I'll go through a little bit later. Yeah, next one. All right, I just want to get a little bit of I'm not sure what my time is yet. A little bit of a role play. Actually, it's not a role play because I'm going to be doing it all myself. So Billy is a 22-year-old engineering graduate who has volunteered for an icebreaker after visiting Toastmasters 3 times as a guest. So I'm going to give you 2 very quick introductions of how Billy could be giving his icebreaker, and these are how I've seen it. So the first one is, I call it the slushy icebreaker. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it does to me. And this is Billy's icebreaker that he would have given last week before he attended this meeting and got the tips. So hi, my name is Billy. I've been to the meeting, visited your club now for 3 weeks, and I've got the courage now to come up and give my speech. I'm a little bit nervous, and my English is not very good, so I apologise for that in advance. I'd just like to thank the Toastmaster, and I'd like to thank everybody for giving me this opportunity to speak here today, because I really like your club, and it's fantastic. I want to begin. My introduction is as follows. Okay, and then he goes on with his speech. Now, Billy, unfortunately, had to cancel his speech, and he come to this meeting instead and was watching my presentation, and he decided to give his icebreaker next week. And we call this the cracking icebreaker. My great-grandfather and grandfather were engineers. My father today is still an engineer, a highly respected specialist in Kazakhstan. I followed tradition, and I've just graduated from the Almaty Engineering Institute. Today I want to share with you 3 things that I've learned over my short life that have really defined me as a person. Are you ready? And then I'll go into it. I mean, it's completely different, but it's just like, you don't have to talk about it. Like I said, it basically, it's very personal, but you sort of, I hope that gives you an idea of how to, like a one way of approaching a speech, I guess. What have we got, Tom? That's it. Okay. I've got 2 minutes. I've got 2 minutes to do the competent communicator skills. So this is a different topic. Tom's giving me a lot of stuff to work on today. Okay. Let's open it up. The competent communicator manual is a brother to what the Adhikar presented, which is to the leadership manual. When Tom brings it up, this is like our Bibles basically. Now, when you're a member, you'll get a whole membership kit, and this will be one of the materials that you get in it. So when you join up, you'll get your kit probably, hopefully a month, but it can take 2 months. Ask herself. She's been waiting for about 6 weeks now, so we're hopeful that the CAS Post hasn't stuffed it up somewhere along the line. But in any case, we've got spare kits, and when you get them, you've got to go through these and see what they mean and how you can go through to complete them. Basically, Tom, we can go to the next one. So the idea is, as Adhikar said, we have to bring these to the meeting. It's just easy just to bring them every time, even though you won't use them every time. But if you form a habit to bring it, then when you need it, you'll have it. So, and then when you do roles, and in this book there's 10 different projects to complete. When you do those projects, you have to get your evaluator of the day to actually complete it, to testify that you've done that. And once you've done all 10 projects, you will then become what's called a competent communicator in terms of the Almaty that's their system. And you'll get a certificate and all that, and you actually, when Toastmasters send you stuff, you actually have 2 letters behind your name, which is, I don't know if you can use them anywhere else. You can't within your world, but anyway, within the Toastmasters world, you'll be officially designated as a CC, which is great, I think. Okay, I've got a handout here which shows the 10 speeches. So if you could just pass those on, it summarises the 10 speeches. Now, these 10 speeches, I think you have to actually do them in order. And they basically, I don't necessarily think they get harder as they go along, but what makes it more challenging is the fact that every speech you have to, as well as incorporate the topic and what it says about the topic in the book, but you have to incorporate the previous topics that you've actually already done. So you're adding more and more to your speaking capabilities as you progress. So, can I just take one? So I'm really running out of time. I don't know, but I think because just to save time, if you you can read on your handout. It explains a little bit about what each one is basically. So, and the idea is to finish 10. And as I think we saw last week, if you were here, we've got 3 members who have now done all 10 projects, and it mightn't seem that much, but believe me, when you get into it, it's quite difficult to achieve because it's a lot of work, and you have to come up with a lot of ideas of how to write speeches and different speeches and put a lot of work into it, and it's quite difficult. A lot of members that you find, they rush through, and not rush, but they're really eager, and they go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and you think, wow, these guys are great, but then it's just natural that they're still great, but they just slow down a little bit. And to get to 10 is a wonderful achievement, and as we're a new club, we have 3 already, so hopefully we get some more. Okay, that's all for me for now.
Okay, thanks Greg for showering us with your energy. Next up is Alia to talk about evaluating.
Good evening everyone. Since this is not really my presentation, you can see I stole it from Toastmasters International, which makes it a bit more official. How many of you members have been speech evaluators? Okay, most of you then. I hope that most of you have been. This is a brief agenda of what the typical officer training involves in providing and enhancing evaluations. We'll learn about feedback versus advice, what is evaluation criteria, what could be obstacles for providing a good evaluation, and effective coaching. And before we move on there, I wanted to mention that evaluations are an important aspect of Toastmasters International. It is actually a unique element of our programs that sets us apart from any other competitors. I don't think we have competitors, Tom, right? But this is one of the most valuable tools that we have and in the club and in order to grow. This is the objectives of this particular presentation. So we'll learn how to give quality feedback. We'll understand the obstacles. So we'll definitely go there. Evaluations. How would you define an evaluation? When you have listened and observed to somebody, and their work, and you have offered feedback. Who do you think benefits from evaluation in our club? Speakers, right? Somebody has come up here and they know they have been listened to, they have been hopefully appreciated for their speech, and somebody has given them constructive criticism and feedback. Always positive, that's one of the elements. And our club environment is always friendly, always positive. Do you think the evaluators also benefit from that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right? I agree. Evaluators benefit, but how do they benefit? In the process, and you can only understand it, I guess it's like yoga. Once you do it, you get it. Not promoting yoga here, but the more I personally provided evaluations, I've noticed that my public speaking has improved, and actually observing somebody make mistakes. And as an evaluator for a speech, you actually listening extra carefully. You're observing extra carefully, not just as an audience, trying to absorb what the speaker is saying, the general message. You are scrutinizingly observing the speaker. And this helps you enhance your speaking abilities. Also, it helps you as an evaluator to improve in providing feedback. Constructive feedback is actually one of the most important things I have learned in Toastmasters. Because I had to use the skill later on to provide constructive feedback to my boss, several bosses, and sometimes it's constructive criticism as well. It could be your client. How do you make sure you stay positive, friendly, and yet assertive about the areas that need improvement in a relationship or in work. Let's just read through this importance of evaluations. So, no Toastmasters Club is fulfilling its obligation to its members unless it brings the maximum of training in the art of constructive criticism. So, as I mentioned, evaluation is one of the things that make our education program unique. And you have to make sure that they boost members' confidence and encourage them to speak more and improve their public speaking skills. What's the difference between feedback and advice? Feedback allows the speaker to better understand how he or she is being perceived, and you have to make sure you use the I language to emphasize that this is your observation. And you're not trying to fault the speaker. So you're not blaming, you're not discouraging, that's a very, we're going to show you how. I wanted to ask you the different, just before we move on here, you can already try to understand which one is feedback and which one is advice. But advice is an opinion, and it may be beneficial only if you offer suggestions for improvement. So your task as an evaluator is always to keep in mind the end objective of the evaluation. The end goal is to make sure the speaker is motivated to listen to you and improve. What do you think about the first one? I had difficulty hearing you. Feedback, exactly. You've observed, you've noticed, you've said. You should improve your eye contact. Advice, excellent. You use different tones throughout your speech. Excellent. Well, you're all experienced evaluators, so I'm not surprised there. The next slide is about evaluation criteria. So you've been shown these booklets a few times now. We encourage all the speakers who are completing their competent communication booklet to try to provide this to your evaluator. So try to find out from general evaluator or from Toastmaster of the day who is going to evaluate your speech. And let them go through the objectives of your speech. Let them have this booklet before you start speaking. So it's your obligation as a speaker to create that communication. I'm sure all of you know this, so I'm not going to go there in detail, but some of the speakers, it surprised me, didn't know that they even had to handle this to the evaluator. Another aspect is, while you are the speech evaluator, in competent leadership booklet, you can be evaluated on your speech evaluation, and there are actually 4 times that you need to get evaluated here and as a speech evaluator, and 6 times as a general evaluator. So make sure you go through both of your booklets. I think I'm enhancing the message that has already been done. So this evaluation criteria in Toastmasters Club makes it easier for you to provide evaluation and feedback, and it also standardizes the process so that each speaker gets the same format. Yep. Okay. I think the last one is about the obstacles. Well, make sure that your evaluator understands the objectives. So we're not going to. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Thresh, we're on a tight time deadline today. And so I'd like to call Ilyasa, so thank you, Alia, to talk about table topics and things that we can do to.
Okay, I will talk about table topic session. Who already had this role? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, my session will be a little bit like table topic session, okay? Please next slide. Why we do this? It's a good start for newcomers. If you are first time here in our club, it's a good opportunity to come here and start your journey. When you come here, you should feel what is to be in front of people and deliver some speech. And this table topic session develop improvisation and increase flexibility. Because in our daily life we have a lot of questions and inappropriate questions and some ridiculous questions, and we should already have to be flexible and improvise the answers. And most important thing is boost energy of the meeting. What do you think? What does it mean? Boost energy of the meeting. Murat, please say us. It will be something like this table topic session.
I think it's when you're on halfway of the meeting, you are tired, and if table topic master asks interesting questions, you think of it and it boosts your mood.
Yeah, great. And about different opinions and new information. Go hard, please tell us what does that mean.
Well, there are many possible answers to questions, and we're all very different. Everyone has has his own opinion, and sometimes we don't, agree with each other. But that's the beauty of Toastmasters. Everyone gets a chance to be listened to.
Yes, great. Be ready. Next question will be for you. Please, next slide. Topic master. What should do topic master? The first is well researched and reflects the meeting theme. What does it mean, Claudette?
Can you repeat the question?
First one.
First one?
Yeah. Well researched and reflects the meeting's theme.
So what's the question?
What does that mean for topic master?
Well, for topic masters, just be prepared and to really know your stuff, to be able to deliver it and to make your table topic session interesting and entertaining.
Yes, great. And comments should be short. You know, sometimes when a table topic speaker starts to deliver the information about some person biography, and he or she just reads like few minutes and you're already bored about it. And why I recommend just like short information, you know, like few words. The main information, then question. Information, question. And it will be more interesting. And third one, call first members who is not taking the role already. What does it mean? Shadra Sigreko, please answer us.
So I think it's just making sure that those who didn't speak during the meeting have an opportunity to come on the stage and speak. So not choosing those ones who already had roles, but making sure again that guests have an opportunity to speak there.
Great. Open with interesting question. What does it mean? Do you know?
I mean, in order to engage the audience, you need to start your speech with an interesting question for them to take a couple of seconds, and then you go on.
Yeah. Question should be interesting. If they will be very boring and not provide some like improvisation opportunity. Well, I already have like 4 minutes. Okay. Okay, and on time. It's very important, you know. Don't be like me. Okay, next slide. Benefits of topic master. Researching new interesting information. And why I like the topic to be topic master is I can ask every question which concerns me. Like, what do you think about universe? What is the meaning of your life? What is the meaning of your job? Do you have dreams or something like this? If you want to make some research and ask people, you can come here and to take the topic master role. Develop creativity, develop leadership skills, because it's not so easy to prepare, to take a role and make good table topic session. That's all. Thank you.
And if like I'm doing double duty today, IT and support role of the president. Now, Big Zad will come and talk to us about the importance of membership and what that means and how people can become members.
Nice to see you again, guys. I hope you're not tired yet. So I'd like to talk about membership because it's very important. And there are strict procedures. If you want to become a member, you have to follow these procedures. After that, you will have a chance to become a member. So now I'd like to talk about these procedures. They're quite easy, actually. This is the first slide. Yeah. How to become a member. You should give an icebreaking speech. This is very important. Then you have to take one of these roles. Timer, upcount, or grammarian. Any of these roles you can choose. After that, you fill up the application form. After that, in our meeting, we have this procedure. We vote for this person. And after that, I will invite that person and congratulate. Then the person has to pay the fee, which is $57 first 6 months. The following 6 months, it's like $37. It's less than the first installment. So, and the benefits of membership. Everybody knows there are so many benefits of becoming a member. So you learn, you gain a lot of experience and so on. I choose some of them because if you Google it, you'll find more than 50, points regarding the benefits. Developing communication and leadership skills. Many people come here in order to improve their communication skills. This is, I think, primarily aim, and leadership skills. Then it is feedback, which we get from evaluators, from mentors, from our colleagues. Then access to a wealth of resources of the club. So we have different manuals, leadership manual, competent communicator manual, so you can benefit a lot. And they have a lot of extra materials as well. You can find it online or you can order it. Friendly and supportive networking. So it's very important. It's the place not only giving a speech, but making friends. For me, it's very important when I can have a friend, I can see new faces and become friends. This is very important for everybody, I think. Assisting other members to discover the potential. So it's not only about meeting, for example, I become friends with David, with Andre, and many other people, and we often meet during the week and we discuss different things. We help to each other. He's experienced in this field, I'm experienced in different field, so we exchange opinions, so it's very useful in this regard. And the last one is very important, at least for me, giving back to society. What is it? Whenever you give a speech, a part of icebreaking speech, because icebreaking speech is about yourself, the rest, you can choose any topic. So persuade the audience, vocal variety, and so many Greg have already mentioned. So you choose a topic, and most speakers try to use a personal experience or information which they have read. When you share this with audience, you actually give back what you gained from somebody else, because we are not born like with degree. We are not born like a professor. Somebody teach us, somebody mentor and coach us. So our task is to give this back. Some people give this by teaching, some people in different ways. But I think that this platform is the best option to give back to society by giving speech, by mentoring, by evaluating, by leading and running the whole meeting. So I think this is very important encouragement. I encourage those people, and we have in this meeting non-members. Yeah, so I encourage you guys to become a member and benefit, because you can come and just sit passively. I don't like it personally, because you should be active. If you are spending your time coming here, you should benefit it by becoming a member and taking all roles possible. That's it.
So as Begzad shared, one of the key things is you can benefit is mentoring through membership. It's an area that we're wanting to focus on and improve more, and Greg's going to tell us about it.
Okay, what is mentoring? I think we all know what mentoring is, but why is it important in the club? And I think the main reason it's important is, we're all driven and determined individuals, just the fact that we come to the meeting, and we can all achieve everything that we need to achieve ourselves, just without the help of anyone else. But by having a mentor, all it does is it speeds up the process. It makes you learn quicker. It makes your time more efficient. And why wouldn't you want that? We have, no matter how good you are or whatever, there's people in the club that basically have done and been through the process before, so they can help you. So we recommend that you take the opportunity to learn from them and use them as your mentor. So a mentor is a person that basically takes an interest and helps out an inexperienced person. Someone that has knowledge and experience and wisdom to share. Now it's important to note that the new members will, from now on, we're only going to basically start the process properly from now on. But new members and even members that we already have are going to be assigned mentors. And it's important to note that you can't kind of choose your own mentor. You just have to take who you're given, unfortunately. And you don't have to work with them, it's up to you, of course, but we recommend that you do, because it's only going to help your experience within Toastmasters. So basically, with mentors' help, what it's going to do is you're going to learn the program quicker. Most of you guys already know the program, but that's more for icebreakers, new people to the club. You're going to learn the standards and the customs a lot quicker. And then for everybody else, it's going to basically, you're going to develop confidence, and it's going to allow you to participate more just by having that person that you can speak to and that can encourage you, and that basically becomes your friend that you meet outside, and they can really help you. Benefits to mentors. So it's not all about the mentees, which is the person that's receiving the help. It's also about the mentor. Just like Ali had said before with evaluations, it also helps the evaluators. So mentoring also helps the mentors, because we can learn from mentees. It helps us to remain productive. It helps us to, well, when I say us, it helps the mentors to basically remain interested in the club. Sometimes you maybe just do one role, you just give speeches or arcana or whatever, but the more roles you have within the club, the more diversifying you become, the more interesting it becomes, and the more you want to come back and take roles. Do something for others and receive recognition. That's always a good a reason for doing something. It also has benefits to the club. By mentoring, we become a better club, we have a better standard of speakers, and that's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It just gains momentum. And that creates more members, and then more satisfied members means that we retain more members. So the mentoring process is just part of the whole process which helps the club to become bigger and better. And I encourage you, all members, when you get assigned to your mentor, if it hasn't already been done, please really think carefully about working with them as opposed to not working with them, because it's going to help you. And it's not forever, so you don't have to worry about it. Maybe you're a bit not sure about it, but give it a try, and you'll learn something out of it for sure. But it's not an infinite relationship; it's finite. Finite. Where's the marionette? Like your All right, thank you. I shouldn't leave the podium. But that's the rule of Toastmasters. Well, I didn't understand it. Well, I attended yoga for 6 months at one period of my life. I could never do yoga, and I still don't get it, so I don't understand it.
Try it.
Sorry.
So there's things that take place outside the meeting. Mentoring is one of those. Another one is having different social events, and Let's going to come up and share this. He's been involved in many of them.
So today we're going to talk about social events. It's one of the most pleasant things in Toastmasters. So during our business meeting, usually we don't have the time to get to know each other, to really make friends and to make good networking. And as you know, the networking is one of the essential part of everyday's life. You make connections, and for one hand washes the other, so something like that. So within 2 years of our club's life, we've been to more than 20 social events. So we conquered 2 mountains, we've been to 1 waterfall, we skied like 5 times, we've even been to Tram Cafe, which is not existent anymore.
They like the ball and
so why? No. Yeah. So why is this important? As I said before, so you get to know your members and the visitors, and maybe you will, as a member, you have a kind of a moral obligation to attract more people to our club and to make it more popular. So you will get to know the visitors, and maybe you will attract them to our club. So membership grows. You will grow as a member. You will try to organize a meeting, the event, and you will grow as a leader. And as you've seen in our leadership meeting, in our leadership manual, there is a part on the creating the event. So understanding this, understanding the spirit of Toastmaster, understanding the spirit of Toastmaster, so connecting us, and then having fun. So we're taking fun, we're just enjoying our life. Next, please. So the main requirements of organizing the social event. So informing all public well in advance. So if you inform them even the week before, so usually you won't take any response and the people won't go. So if you want people to go to your event that you organize, you have to inform them well before, like 2 weeks in advance, to create an event on Facebook, to call them in person. So it's up to you. So you have to monitor the progress of organizers. So call anyone like 2 days before, 1 day before. Are you going? Are you going? In order to be sure that the public will come to your process. And if you organize an event at a restaurant, so you have to call them and reserve the place well in advance. You have to do all the preparatory process. So make provisions for negative scenarios. As you well know, we live in Kazakhstan, so you will have to be prepared to the negative scenarios which can affect. So for example, the bad weather, the good weather as well. So and the last part, the event organizer should arrive on time. So if you organize your meeting, you should arrive on time. So we've had multiple of events that people won't come and won't show up at all, and it kind of was very tricky to continue to do that. If you have a plan or if you have an idea with the next social event, so you are more than welcome to come up. According to the plan of our today's meeting, we will have to discuss and come up with 2 social events which we will have in 1 month or even shorter. So the possible events is hiking, movie night, house party. So we have 2 or 3 minutes to discuss it. So what do you think?
Yes.
Is this house party? Yes, not flat party.
House party.
It depends, yeah. So possible.
I
move that we have another hiking trip.
Hiking.
Yes.
At the beginning of May.
Yes. Okay. The motion is for hiking. Who is for hiking?
Is there a second there?
Need a second.
Hiking.
Do we have a majority?
Who wants to eat shashlik?
But is the hiking season over or not?
No, if you have a shot. Or shot of whiskey. So yeah, next. So introduction of new positions. So some of our members came up with an idea to have a special VP, a vice president of events, who will do the things I've already said before. So his responsibilities include coming up with an idea, assigning a person in charge of events, controlling an organizational process, and working with a VP of education to help people complete the competent leader projects. So public relations as well. Yeah. So if anybody have a desire to run for it, you are more than welcome and inform us after the meeting. So thank you very much.
So, of course, after you have a social, you have to post it somewhere, and that's social media. So that's really
Thank you. I'm going to time myself this time. So just before I begin, I wanted to, this is only for the members. We have 2 social media outlets, and thank you so much for doing this, by the way. So the agenda tonight would be to discuss what outlets we already have, what plans we have, what is a PR committee, and who's in it, and what you can do to volunteer and help us, media plan and publicity calendar. We should have coordinated this with Daudet, but I called that position, social events coordinator based on our leadership meeting, but it could be vice president of events. So I wanted to discuss that as well. I'm sorry if this is too small, but we have too many media outlets. We have our own website, toastmasters.kz. In case you didn't know, you can guide people there. Of course, a lot of the materials are on toastmasters.org website, which is the Toastmasters International website. I wanted to mention briefly, Yedikar has been mentioning the roles during the meetings. Toastmasters International has just come up with an app that you can download on your smartphone to enhance your role taking. So grammarian, R counter, it actually helps you just click and count the R's and the time, etc. So there's a lot of resources available there. But how do we communicate to public and post the events? We only have Facebook and YouTube channel at the moment, but there's a trick there. I don't know if many of you noticed, but we have Toastmasters page. That's an official club page. We have a group that's been there for a while and we still keep it. We have also a Facebook account, so we're like a regular person. I don't know if you're familiar with Facebook, but actually each one of those has different advantages and disadvantages. That's the trick that Facebook plays with us. So for example, when we post an amazing hiking trip photos, I cannot tag anyone, or it doesn't recognize anyone unless I post it in a Facebook account. But all of our albums are on the page right now. So I don't know if it's complicated or not, but I would encourage you to look at what you have as a resource from Facebook perspective. We have a YouTube channel, and Facebook was there since May 2014. We have a YouTube channel that Greg, thank you very much, uploads the videos to. And all of that is available on your agendas as well as on our flyers. Our plans for the next few months, we started a new program called Member Spotlight Series from today, actually. I don't know if any one of you saw the blog post about it. Okay, only one person saw it. Oh, 2, 3, 4. Okay, excellent. Do you know who it featured? Can you guess?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, our president, our founding member, the founder of this club, and if you're interested, there are 10 interesting questions that Tom answered, and this is what's going to happen to all those of you who are members throughout this time frame. We're trying to think about video features. That's going to happen with the PR committee, so we're going to discuss how do we feature members through the video, if everybody's okay with that, if they're sensitive to it. I'm not photogenic, so I refuse. But the others will do that. Members and guest feedback. So our guests at regular meetings, we're going to collect their feedback as well and post through blogs. And we're going to discuss who's doing that in a moment. We're also going to start, finally, our regular newsletter to include the calendar of our events, the social events that we hope to plan ahead of time. The regular meetings are there every Wednesday. Also, public speaking tips and advice. And, of course, the member spotlights that we feature everywhere else. And, of course, we want to expand to other social media outlets. Among other plans, the more sign is we're going to try to continue the outreach to the external public and have guest speakers come up. Coming soon, new social media outlets. We're going to start the Instagram account and also a LinkedIn account. And we need your help first to just share those things on if you want more people to learn about it. The next slide. So, oops. Okay. That's weird. You don't have any other slides? Okay. No, that's okay. Go back. Sorry. Okay, so if you have any ideas, if you have PR, marketing background, or journalism background, please join our PR committee. There were supposed to be a few things, so it's hard work actually. It requires commitment, and we understand that not everybody can do it. So we have currently webmaster / blogger Aisha Molkimbaeva. Stand up so people recognize you. We have another blogger, Gauhar Musava. And we have a secret member, Shopan Ilyas, who's actually handling our website arrangements as well. So you can contribute just maybe with one project or with social events, and you can actually manage a public relations campaign with us. So talk to us if you're hosting any events, social events, talk to the new social events coordinator, and make sure we get the word out there with our PR committee. And if you do feel that you can commit to it and you have the background and can work in a team, then you're welcome to the PR committee. And the last slide. These are just some media plan topics that we had. So Spotlight series is on. I'm not going to go through this, but these are just important tips that we share on our medium, and we'll share. So I'm not going to go there, thank you. Just a quick, so public relations is every member's business. Most of you, when you just came into the club, you have heard about the club thanks to our public relations. What it means is you either heard it from a member, from a leader, from somebody else, but they did the job. So each one of you have a public relations role. Our role within the PR committee is to expand it to the wider audience. So you can ensure, you can help us and fulfill your project requirements within the manual, and commit to occasionally volunteering and hosting events, or making video blogs like Aim does. She shares it on her own website, but I steal it sometimes, so thank you so much for doing it. Amazing things she does. And you can share, or you can just share what you're doing here and why you want to be here. But one important aspect is once you become a member of Toastmasters, you become our brand ambassador. So coming in on time, like I did today, is one of the important things, and ensuring you're professional and show the skills you learn here to the outside public. That's how you also help us. Thank you very much.
We didn't have a timer today, but we kind of had one, but we definitely need one. So it's 9 o'clock already. And so the last thing we wanted to, there's a couple of things we have to slide together. We want to talk about the elections and what that means. And so, I have a few slides. Before I do that, I want to pass around, if each person would take one. We have a member interest survey right here of indicating what things you've heard about, a lot of different things. You can indicate what you're interested in being a part of, and what are some of your goals in Toastmasters. So everyone take one sheet, and please fill it out and return it back to me today before you leave. There's a couple other things that we won't know this, but there's a whole process before becoming a distinguished club. You need to have people move through after a competent communicator. There's lots of projects in order to become a distinguished club. We have the different officers. So what I want to talk about is how the process is going to work for us. So first of all, I'd like to introduce the way elections often work is the officer roles currently will end June 30th, and beginning July 1st we'll have new officers. And towards that process, we have a nominating committee of people who want to be an officer. You need to talk to one of these people. So I'm a part of the nominating committee. Also on our nominating committee will be Aisha and Gauhar. If you're interested in running for any of the offices, as well, we have Dalet and Yadikar. So if you are interested in being an officer, so briefly, as you've heard about a lot of us during the meetings, we take different roles. You have a president who runs different things. We're going to have each officer share briefly what they do. I think you have a pretty good idea already of what that is. So I just want to explain the process. You can nominate other people for the role, or you can nominate yourself to be an officer. And so again, if you want to nominate yourself, you can send an email to myself or one of the other members. Then the nominating committee will meet, and we will talk about the different people that want to be in the roles and come up with our suggestions. Then, in order for it to become official voting, we need to have a meeting of members again, probably before one of our regular meetings, where we'll do the voting process. And at that time, anyone can nominate again from the floor. If you don't like what the nominating committee's done, someone else can also say, hey, I would like to run for this office. And what we'll do, we'll vote for one office, beginning first with the president, then vice president of education, and down through the line. And we're hoping to have the election on April 27th. So part of this is we have different officers. We have a treasurer, secretary takes notes. If you want to vote in the election, you have to be a member in good standing, which means you need to have paid your dues. And so if you have money even today, come see Greg as treasurer to do that. And so if there's so one of the things I want to ask first, are there any questions that people have about what any of the officer positions are? We are adding one, we passed up, here's a list of the officer roles as well, a brief description which you can look at. Also, all this information is online as we go through it. And one more item of business I wanted to do is, Pastor, I wanted to do have Greg as treasurer do a quick financial report. But so if I'll have Greg come up and do that 1 second.
Okay, I mean, as treasurer, it's quite an easy position. Now, my responsibility is just to maintain the money and keep a good, accurate record of all the incomings and the outgoings of the money. Most of the membership fees that you give me every year, every month, or majority of that. So for new members, it's $47, and for ongoing members, it's $27. That just passes through me and goes to Toastmasters International in the States, and we retain $10, and that's basically the $10 that I need to account for and to make sure everybody's happy with how it's spent, etc. So if you just go to the next slide, this is just an example of, since we've been in existence, all the incoming receipts. This is just again the $10 because the other money just doesn't stay with us. So we've collected over 2 years 200,000 tenge, because everyone pays in tenge usually, of money. So I have that at home sitting in my shoebox.
You don't?
I don't, and then I had it in my shoebox, but then occasionally we need to pay out money. So we don't have many expenses as a club to date, but when we do, we need to draw it from that $10, or everyone's $10 accumulating. So some of the examples, we've had business cards with some of our officers. We have pins, which you see some of the guys are wearing, and they're actually available for sale if anyone wants them. They're just member pins. We had a cake when we had 1 year anniversary, and there's other educational material that from time to time we buy, which is some of the stuff which is being handed out. So at the moment we have 70,000 odd tenge, which in our club's account. So if anyone has any questions about that, then they can come and ask me.
So we're a little bit over time right now, so before we close, are there any questions that anyone has about how the club operates or something you want to suggest? One of the things I do want to say is, if you notice, you talked about it, you may not have noticed it, but just because there's officers, there's places to get involved. We want to have committees to be involved in the membership as well. So we have more people involved in trying to recruit new members. We want to have committees for the social events, and we want to have committees that we already have a committee for the PR and people involved with that, which is great. But there's opportunities to get involved in these different areas. And on the list I passed on for officers, we do not have like the coordinator, vice president of events, but that will be an official position for our club, for someone to handle that with where we are. Any questions at this point? Anything about club meetings, what's going on, how it works, how it operates? Again, if you're interested in being an officer, talk to one of like Aisha, Galhar, myself, Dalet, or Yadi Kar. We'll put your name on the list. You can also nominate other people. What we will do, if you nominate someone else, we'll talk to them, find out if they really want to do that position. Maybe someone's going to be traveling or be gone for a while. That's how the process works. Now I'd like to invite we'll have a regular meeting next week, and Begzad will come up. He's Toastmaster, also as Vice President of Education, as part of his role to fill roles. Can you come up and see? We have a few vacant roles for next week.
Alright. So next meeting will be in the 13th of April. So I'm going to be Toastmasters. So we have 4 speakers already: Ruslan Zelintsov, Araylin, Baynur Gaeva, Gauhar Akal, and Greg Heaver. We have general evaluator Tom Bartowski. We have Andrei Reshenikov as an evaluator. We need 3 more evaluators. Any volunteers? Can I take your pen?
Remember, it's an important role.
Yes. Okay, you write it here. Gauhar Junus.
Evaluate.
We need 2 more evaluators. Jadra. Jadra, what was your name?
Secret.
And Yes, that's it's. Wait a minute, Yadakar, you are going to be grammarian, by the way. Turn out. Okay, does anybody want to be grammarian? Evaluator. Okay, we'll find out. And Afkander Nadia Ibrahim will check timer Jansaya Ilhan. So that's it. So in the 20th of April we'll have another meeting. We'll have speakers. We need evaluators. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Grammarian Afkander timer. No. Okay, Tom, that's next week is well, I will save it. Okay, we'll,
Speaker profile.
it's full till the 4th of May.
Then I'm evaluating.
Okay. Yeah, just so we know, on the 20th, our speakers are Enlik, Aya, you're Marat, you're up on the 20th of April, and Jadra, you have a speech 20th of April. 27th of April, our speakers, we have an icebreaker, Vasyl Sadhu, and then Asel Bekbulatova has, I think, project number 3, Yadi Kar, and Yernur have speeches then. And on May 4th, we already have 2 speakers signed up. So it's exciting, people's speeches are getting sent up edited. Now, with that, I would like to adjourn our meeting for today.